Hello all, namaste, pranam, namo namaha. I welcome you all for this session. And before we start the session, I will start with a prayer. Please close your eyes. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Today is an auspicious day. Today is June 20th, but today is Shukla Paksha of Dashami Tithi in Jyeshta Masa, which is the day Mother Ganga descended onto the earth to purify all of us. So let us pray to Mother Ganga, who is the liberator of the three worlds and who is residing in the head of Shankara. Let us pray that our bhakti, our devotion be at her lotus feet. We have two talks that we have scheduled for the occasion of International Yoga Day, which is tomorrow. So tomorrow there will be same session like this. Today we have an exponent of yoga with us, Shri Raghuramji. He will talk about understanding prana, consciousness and health with respect to yoga. Before we give it over to Shri Raghuramji, I would like to say a few words about S-VYASA. The acronym S-VYASA stands for Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhana Samsthanam. It is based in Bangalore. The organization has a holistic vision of using the tools of yoga to bring development at the physical level, mental level, emotional level, and even at the spiritual level. Their basic foundation is based on cooperation, bliss, and mostly having good health. We have a video that will be shown to you. It will be for about 5 minutes or so. We'll first see the video. Let us understand what S-VYASA is.
My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to this Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhana Samsthan, or in short, S-VYASA Yoga University. Many people ask, how can I have a university for yoga? Because their concept of yoga was very limited to only asanas. But Swami Vivekananda gave a very broad spectrum of yoga, consisting of the four main streams of yoga: Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, based on our traditional texts of yoga, including all the Upanishads and others. And this university is the most unique university now. It has been raised into the category one university by the University Grant Commission.
Here in this Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhana Samsthanam, here we have Sahanavavatu Sahano Bhunaktu. Both Acharya and Antevasi sit together.
We have the School of Naturopathic and Yogic Sciences, in which we offer the BNYS courses, and similarly we have got our boys hostel. We investigate yagnas, homas and havanas by standard scientific tools of using the random event generator. And in our Arogya Dham, we translate this into action through proper diet designs.
we have Arogya Dhama, or the Integrated Health Home, which is a 250 bedded facility for participants to come and stay here to undergo yoga, therapy, Ayurveda, naturopathy, acupuncture, physiotherapy, etc., all carried out under the supervision of experts in allopathy, Ayurveda, naturopathy, yoga, etc. A participant comes in here and an assessment is made by all these experts, and a daily program is prepared from 5:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. They go through a full daily routine, and documentation is done of their progress, and we have been observing very, very interesting improvement in large number of diseases which are all traceable to lifestyle.
There's lots to take from yoga.
It has been shown that yoga can revert back your insulin resistance.
In this most unique laboratory, we have measures of all dimensions of the human system, including gene expressions, the brain changes, autonomic parameters, the biochemical parameters. All these things can be measured with great accuracy. And also we have techniques to measure the prana, the mind, the emotions, and the intellect. Therefore, it is the most unique research lab that we have in the country and probably in the whole world. We have produced large number of research papers, nearly 700 and odd, published in national and international journals. To scale up the findings of this research, we have a Stop Diabetes movement done throughout the country. In 60 districts, 2.5 lakh people were screened, and we have wonderful data for which we got a big award by the International Diabetic Association in the United States. Now we have taken up a nationwide integrated cancer project to screen 1 crore of people in 100 districts. And we have screening programs, the randomized control trials, mechanism study, palliative care, all included in that to control cancer, oral cancer, breast cancer, and cancer cervix in the whole country. Now S-VYASA has many recognitions, Center of Excellence, ICMR Center of Advanced Research, and many others. What next in S-VYASA? We have to combine the best of the East with the best of the West in our Arogya Dhama. So we are developing Vasishtha School of Health Integration, in which we have allopathy and all systems of Ayush brought together to bring the wonderful results. That is our future program. We invite you to join hands and help us in this unique opportunity to bring very nice healthcare delivery system which is very cost effective and it's very effective with no side effects, no long-term challenges, and that gives you the wonderful dimension. Thank you very much.
Best of the East with the best of the West. If you remember, that was the same thing that Sri Yukteswarji told Yogananji when he went to the West in the year 1920. So this 5-minute video may not exactly sum what kind of research and so many other aspects of yoga that S-VYASA is trying to bring about. Hopefully, if we get another video, probably we will show it tomorrow. But before waxing too much, I would like to give it to Shri Raghuramji. A little bit of introduction about Raghuramji. For those people who were here in the Intensive International Kriya Yoga Seminar 2017 January, Shri Raghuramji and his wife Dr. Nagaratna Didi were there, and they took classes for about 2 days. So if people remember who were there, maybe they remember Raghuramji and Dr. Nagaratna Didi. Raghuramji is a graduate of in civil engineer, having passed engineering in 1970, but since childhood he was more interested in the Indian wisdom, Indian spirituality, and its philosophy. As a student, he has traveled a lot in the Himalayas and meeting many saints and sadhus, and he was most mostly attracted to the saints of Sri Ramakrishna and Vivekananda order. In the year 1973, he went to Vivekananda Kendra and took training there. And he also has his mentor, has his own brother-in-law who taught him Vedanta. He has conducted many research projects in the West, in the UK, in Middlesbrough General Hospital, and also in Northern Colorado Allergy and Asthma Hospital in Fort Collins. His wife is Dr. Nagaratna Didi, who is the chief medical consultant of S-VYASA. In his efforts, he has founded Yoga Bharati in USA to spread the word of yoga in the United States. He is the founder, chairman, and spiritual guide there. I request him to take us through this session, explaining to us about how consciousness, prana is related to the health and how it is related to yoga. And Raghuramji was also kind enough to tell that if the listeners, if they have any questions, you may please put them in the chat box of Zoom. We would be compiling them, and as time permits, we would have a question and answer session too. With this introduction, I give it over to Raghuramji. Welcome, Baba.
Pranam. First of all, my charan sparsh to Swami Pragyanji, a great friend of mine, and also greetings to all the Baba Swamis who are there associated with the ashram, all the inmates. On this 7th International Day of Yoga, I bring the greetings to all of you. It's a very, let me take 1 minute to say a few things about that International Day of Yoga. Actually, there are 3 Narendras who are responsible to bring yoga to this world. The first Narendra is the Shiva himself. He taught to Parvati, and that's what the message that we have in the name of yoga. So he brought yoga to the world. Narendra. Second Narendra is Narendranath Datta, who's Vivekananda, who took across the shores to United States at the time of Parliament of World Religions in 1893. First time in a world forum, Parliament of World Religions, he spoke about yoga, and he gave the idea of all these 4 streams of yoga: Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. This is second Narendra. And third Narendra, who has taken it to the next level, international platform, that is what is United Nations organizations, our beloved Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and who took it to international, the World Forum, in United Nations. But very surprisingly, that all these 3 Narendras, they have gone through all these hardships. Like, for example, first Narendra, that is Shiva, he pestered his father-in-law and got married to Parvati. And it so happened that there was mishap, and then he had to grieve for that. Dakshayani happened and all those things. We know that. What is the story of Shiva? Okay, second Narendra, you look at him, Narendranath Datta, they announced that in the month of April, there will be Parliament of World Religions. And as an innocent monk from India, he went all the way in the month of April. And then in the cold weather, he went to Chicago. They said Parliament is postponed to September, and you are not a speaker because speakers are all allotted. This man, really poor fellow, having $7 in his pocket. You can imagine what kind of hardships he went to. But finally, he got an admission at the Parliament of World Religions. And not only that, he made such an impact about yoga to the whole world. And the third person, Narendranath Datta, poor fellow, when he was the government chief minister of Gujarat, America did not want him to come to USA. They did not give him visa for several years. And the first visit that he went after that, when he got the visa as a prime minister, directly made a statement at the parliament, at the United Nations, and created yoga and impact. I mean, you can just imagine that what an amount of struggle that they have gone through, and then brought yoga to the world. And today, it's almost like the whole world is practicing yoga. the whole world is celebrating this wonderful occasion called as International Day of Yoga. All these people that they have done that successfully because they're equipped with the yoga, their whole direction is yoga, and they don't have any personal thing about them. This is what is the power of yoga, that we could see how yoga goes to the world around. And that it is apt that we are celebrating on this longest day of the year, and that's what is International Day of Yoga. Particularly this year, it is the 7th International Day of Yoga. Greetings to you all. Another important aspect that after International Day of Yoga, yoga is a science which has come from ancient times, before even the at the time of mankind. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Even before the earth was born, I created this. Imamam vivasvate prahuhu manuvikshvakave pravit. It has come from right from the time of creation. And from that time of creation, this idea of prana was there all over in all our texts. You take the Vedas, you take the Upanishads, you take various texts of spirituality, anything that you take. And not only that, in the rituals that we do, regularly we use this mantra, Om Prana Swaha, Apana Swaha, Vyana Swaha. So that means prana is something which is so unique in our culture, but nowhere else in the world, they have not any semblance of prana. Nothing of that nature anywhere in the world. It's very surprising to see that. Often people equate prana to be energy. Yeah, because that with the prana, that various activities done, energy is required to do the activities. Therefore, the prana is equated to energy. But then one very important thing that we need to really realize, what is prana more than the energy, is that energy by itself does not increase or decrease. Energy is whatever that energy is there, it only dissipates. That's the only thing about the energy. But look at the way prana, it grows by itself. That's what Shastra says. Swayameva pinatam vyati, swayameva tanava vyati. Imagine the amount of prana that is there inside. Prana is the life force, what we call it as, life energy. We don't have a better word. Actually, we should actually carry the word called prana itself. And first semblance of prana that you could see, in the neutral matter, there is no prana, manifest prana. But when you come to the plants, that's where you see first level of prana manifestation. And imagine, I was just looking at a small little plant. What is the amount of prana that is there inside the plant? And it comes out all the way from the earth. And that's the only force on this earth which defies the gravity. There's no other force. Everything is come to gravity. But prana is the only thing which defies gravity. It brings the plant away from the earth into the sky. And look at the amount of prana that it is there. What it can do is that it can create nice, wonderful flowers, nice, wonderful fruits, and at a huge, big tree it can create. All that prana can do. Imagine if a small little plant can have a prana which can create all that, which can do such wonders. It's a God's wonder. And in fact, when you look at that inside the plant, what is there, you don't see anything. You can't even make out anything, whatever that is there. And that's what is the amount of prana which can make that. If prana has in a plant can do all those things, imagine the amount of prana that we have as human beings, much more evolved than all these plants and animals and all that. Beyond that, human being is there. And the amount of prana that we have within us, what an amount of thing that it can do. It can create a Shankaracharya. It can create a Vyasa. It can create a Krishna. That is the kind of prana that we have. We all have. But how much are we using? How much are we realizing that? And that's why it is necessary that we understand about prana, realize about prana. There is one thing which is very important thing about is that what yoga, the definition of yoga is, on one side there is matter. That is what the sutra says, that vritti sarupyam itaratraha. Vritti identifies you with the outside. Itaratra means matter. And vritti nirodha yoga, swarupe avasthanam, that you are on the other side, you are the swarupa. And what connects you, Swarupa, that is consciousness, and that's what is Jivatma, what we call it as. And you are that. It's not that anybody else, but you are that consciousness, and outside matter is there. In fact, the matter shines because of the consciousness. There is no consciousness, matter will not shine. The moment the matter takes place only because that there is consciousness behind it, and that consciousness is proved is there in the form of prana. Therefore, we say that when there is prana, there is life, then there is movement, and there is an activity within us. So what creates an activity is the consciousness in the form of prana, which creates an activity. And that's what is the very definition of prana. That which can create an activity, that's what is prana. So therefore, it's the consciousness whose manifestation in the form of prana is the one which is responsible for all the activities. And we have that. In fact, of all the various creatures that are there in the creation of God, most unique creation is human being. Human being, because on one end he is the physical body, Annamaya Kosha, absolutely matter, made out of food, therefore it is called as Annamaya Kosha. And then subtler than that, when we go deep inside that, we are the manifest consciousness. And that's what is Anandamaya Kosha. So the whole spiritual journey is to see that how less that we identify ourselves with the physical body, and how much more that we establish ourselves in the consciousness or the Anandamaya Kosha. That's what is the idea. And matter is supposed to be the physical body, and the spirit is supposed to be the consciousness. Therefore, you are a materialist if you are identified with the body. You are spiritualist if you identify yourself with the consciousness. And then body, that you use it. All the other things, that you use it wherever it is necessary and however much that you need it. Don't get into that more than whatever that is necessary to use it. The body is necessary. Without the body, that we can't exist inside this body. Therefore, we need to take care of the body. We live in this body. But it's only that way that we use this body as a house, a temple, in which the God is that consciousness which is there. But unfortunately, what happened? Out of ignorance, people think the body, not only the body, even the world outside the body becomes much more important than the consciousness itself, life itself, prana itself. Mullah Nasruddin was going in the forest. Robbers stopped him on the way, showed him a dagger and said, give, and told him, take out all your money and jewelry. Otherwise, I take your life. Mullah said, don't touch my money and jewelry, they're hardened. To take my life, I got it free of charge. What you get free of charge, you just let go because you don't know the value of it. Once you know the value of it, then you see that all other things outside, but you are the deep inside the consciousness. This is something which is the spiritual journey that we need to make. Now, let me say a few things about this prana. A lot of things which can be talked about this prana, but very important thing is, as we have seen, prana is the only thing which defies gravity. And that's what you can see, that even a candle that you light, any flame that you light, it goes in the upper direction. The lower end is the candle and the upper end is the sky, is the space. Same way, prana also has a tendency to move in the upward direction, which is its nature. But because that we created so many hurdles in between, at the body level, at other levels, then prana gets stuck. The whole journey of yoga, when you sit for meditation, is to see that how to make this prana urdhva mukha, flow in the upper direction. That's what is the simple idea that we do it. The lower centers are much more binding. The higher and higher that we go, we get the greater and greater freedom. And the highest center is supposed to be the freedom, mukti or moksha. And not only that, the highest center is blissful center because there is no bondage there. It's a total freedom. Lower centers is away from the bliss. That's why we have Anandamaya Kosha at that level. And it's nothing new. Actually, every child is identified himself with the bliss level. He comes to the body level only when it is absolutely necessary. We were also like that, but slowly over a period of time we forgot. And now this prana which moves in the upper direction, it is responsible for all the activities that we are doing. That's what Upanishad say, Vak pranamapyati, Chakshu pranamiti, Shrotram pranamiti. Every activity is done because of prana. Yes, you talk because of prana, you see because of prana, you hear because of prana, you walk because of prana. All these things are because of prana. Now, this prana, which is responsible for all these activities, are divided into 5 different pranas. And that is not because that there are different pranas that are there in our system, but with the type of activity that they do, based on that it is divided. Like for example, whatever that is to and fro, movement in the nature of to and fro, like a pendulum, it is supposed to be prana. Like for example, your lungs move to and fro, your heart moves to and fro. That's why these are all supposed to be the prana which is responsible for all these activities. Similarly, there is an upward activity that's going on, is supposed to be urdhvam gacchati. Upward force is supposed to be udana. And that is only going in the upward direction, like the way that you are thinking, scheming and planning, you are belching. All these things are supposed to be upward activity. So therefore, this is what is called as urdhvam gacchati udana. Similarly, there is downward activity that's going on. And that's what is, you take the food. Just imagine that all that what you do when you take the food is that you put it in the mouth and gulp it. And once you gulp it, the food itself moves in the downward direction, goes through all the processing and all that. Finally, the waste is separated and thrown out through your centers of excretion. And this is all in the downward force. And whatever that goes in prana, which is responsible for downward activity, is supposed to be apana. Atho gacchati iti apanaha. But then apart from this, that there is another center prana that is there, which is responsible for radial activity. And that means to say, I touch on my hand, immediately the message goes to the brain, and then message comes from the brain to see that, come on, take out your hand, it is hot. And the whole thing happens so instantaneously. Instantaneously. This is radial everywhere. And that's why it is called as Vyapakatvaitihi Vyanaha. This is what is called as Vyana. So we have seen what is prana, we have seen apana, we have seen what is called as udana, and we also have seen Vyana. Apart from that, there is one more activity which is constantly creating a balance within us. That's what is samana. And look at the way how beautiful these pranas take care of you so much. Like for example, when you are climbing up the hill, you need more oxygen. Your respiration is not sufficient. Suddenly this samana pitches in and makes you to take more breath. To a point where you may even have to stop talking while you are going up the hill, because that you need more prana, more energy. See, this samana is the one which balances. Similarly, samana, when you are hungry, immediately the message goes that you need to have food. And then you are putting food in your mouth. And then as the food reaches the stomach, the moment that there is a balance between the hunger and this food that you take, immediately samana sends an alarm to you, saying that yes, you have enough now. There's no more hunger. It's up to us to listen to it, but I don't know how many people really listen to that samana. But then we need to, similarly, when you are, it's not only in the conscious way, unconscious way also. When you go to sleep, you are tired and then you just drop off on the pillow and then you go to deep sleep. And the moment your tiredness and the rest come to a balance, samana, immediately samana pitches and wakes you up. Not only unconscious, subconscious way also. Like for example, people who are in coma condition, everything becomes all right. Only thing is that they have to come up themselves. Nobody can bring them out. And that's what is samana, which helps us that way. How many different ways that samana is trying to help us? Constantly trying to pitch in to see that we are maintaining a balance. You are sick and that time you cannot take food. Immediately samana pitches in saying that, look, you don't have hunger, you don't have taste for the food. All these things are the making of samana. Not only that, look at the vyana, how much it is helping us. See, all other senses, they have one sensory organ. Like for example, ears, you hear through ears. Seeing, there are particular sensory organs like eyes through which that you see. Tongue is there to taste, and tongue also, that there are several portions, will give you various tastes of different types. That means to say a sensory organ for a particular sensory perception. Smell, only nose can help you to get that smell. Similarly, God would have provided one sensory organ for your touch. But then God is wise. Because if he had provided one sensory organ like a tip of the finger to have that sensory organ to touch, then anywhere else, if the fire is burning you, you don't even realize that. That's why God provided the sensory organ for throughout the body, every corner of the body. And all this sensory organ is maintained by one, dedicated by one prana. That's what is vyana. If vyana were not to be there, we wouldn't have been surviving. How beautifully it is protecting us. Not only these things, look at the way that whatever that the upward activity that is going on, the udana urtham gacchati, it not only does the activity of memory, etc., all those things, but it also takes memory and keeps it in store, so that when you leave this body, you carry with that memory with yourself. You are the consciousness, you carry that memory, and that you come back with that memory, which is responsible for the next birth. That's why this life is supposed to be an investment for the next life. Whatever that you can do in this life, good, bad, whatever it is, you store it in your udana. Particularly, it is called as Dhananjay prana, which is responsible for rebirth. That's why you come across so many people who are child prodigies. That means they are 6, 7-year-old and they can sing so beautifully the whole classical music. And the amount of music that they have is like the way somebody who practiced for 60, 70 years of rigorous training, and this boy is 6-year-old and he can enter that. Where does it come from? Is it not coming from that deep inner memory? So that's how we carry this with us, and that's what is udana. Udana is responsible for what we are in this life today. Similarly, atho gacchati iti adana, ada, apanaha. That means the downward force, not only the defecation, urination, but another very, very important activity that goes on. And that's what is the activity called as the species maintenance. And that's why you are not only that excretion and the urination, but most important activity that goes on into apana is the sexual activity. And you know, the way that our scriptures have given such a great respect for the sexual activity, that because that sexual activity is responsible for species maintenance, a creation takes place. Not only that, that particular sperm that we release has got all the memory of several generations of yours. That's why you can see that 5, 6, 7 generations we have the identification with that particular thing. So that means to say, what an extraordinary activity. That's why that activity is supposed to be Brahmic activity. And therefore somebody who does not unnecessarily waste that, somebody does not unnecessarily meddle with that, but carefully uses what is called as brahmacharya. Brahmacharya has a very lofty meaning in our spiritual culture, in a Sanatana Dharma. It's because of this reason that they wanted to have race which is extraordinary in its dimension, extraordinary in its perception. All these prana activities are doing so much of work for us. That's why in Prashnopanishad, when the Rishi talks about these things, he has such a great respect for prana. He says, my dear mother, you protected me all the time. You take care of me all the time. That's why he says that pranasyedam vashet sarvam tridive yat pratishtitam mateva putran rakshasva srishcha prajnamcha videhinati. We need to take care of this prana. We need to take care of all these things in such a way that not only now, what only for us, but it is for the whole mankind that we take this care forward. So this is what is essentially the way that we recognize all these 5 different prana activities. And when the prana is at the, we have, along with that prana, there is another thing, what is called as these chakras. This is a very beautiful concept that Indian philosophy has come. There is, people unnecessarily, unfortunately, mystify the whole thing. But an engineer can easily understand, or simple knowledge of mechanism can understand that. You see, if I want to move something, it's very hard to move. A simple way that I can convert that into move easily is I fix the wheels underneath that. Once the moment I may mount them on the wheel, with one push that I can move it. That means to say, wheel is a beautiful contrivance which will convert a potential force into kinetic activity. We all know that. And in fact, our Sanatana Dharma is the first one in Vedas, first time that they have invented, they have created, they have discussed about this wheel. Which means basically it is something where a potential energy is converted into kinetic activity. And the beautiful, it is conceptual wheel. And the first conceptual wheel about that they thought about is that the whole creation is from the Brahman, and Brahman is potential energy. And the creation is a kinetic activity. Every moment it's charati, it's constantly moving. So what is that on which wheel that the potential Brahman has created this kinetic Brahmic activity called as the creation Jagat? It is on the Kala Chakra, the beautiful concept of the time wheel. That's what is created, all these things. The same way that the whole changes of scripture, all these things that are going on, all the seasons, etc., they're going on because the time is in the form of a wheel. The season after season comes, year after year it comes. So this is a cyclic way that the things are going on, the wheel concept. The same kind of wheel concept is there within us also in human being. Like for example, a simple thing, you want to speak out. Wanting to speak is a potential force. But then there is a center which gives an avenue for it to come out into kinetic activity. That's what is the throat center. The throat makes you to speak out. Similarly, that you feel something which is touching your heart, and actually that you feel touched by some nice, wonderful, or somebody suffering and all that, a compassion comes. And where that compassion comes, you see that it is at the heart center. And so that is what is the chakra there. The food is a potential energy, but food itself is sitting as food will not help you to give you any energy. On the other hand, it becomes like a poison. It has to be converted into energy. And that center which converts food into energy is a swadhisthana. That's what is the stomach center. Similarly, like that, we have thinking, planning, scheming. Idea is there, and that idea is given in the form of manifestation. That's what is Ajna Chakra center. So like this, we have various centers in our body. When you cut open the body, you don't see any wheels. But then these wheels are the conceptual centers where potential energy converts into kinetic activity. Fine, wonderful. But then what happens is that you speak out because somebody said something, you shout at him. Because he said something wrong, that you shout at him. Or you even beat him and say, look, I didn't want to shout at you, I didn't want to yell at you, but what can I do? You said something, therefore I shouted at you. That means to say your shouting is not in your control, it is somebody else's control. Similarly, you see the food. You have just now finished eating and your stomach is full, but suddenly somebody brings some interesting food, like an ice cream or something like that. The moment is that you feel hungry. Arey, why did you feel hunger? You have finished food? No, because that ice cream is there. So that means to say your hunger is not dependent on you. It depends on the object outside. So that means to say all these centers are activated by the world outside. That means to say outside does something, immediately you spring up into an activity with that. Ice cream comes, you spring up into an activity. Somebody says something, you spring up into an activity of throwing hurling abuses at him. The springing, the way that you come out, that's what is basically spring, means that which jets out, which bursts out. And that is the same thing in Sanskrit also. We have Pingala, the channel where that your energy bursts out in the form of a reaction to the world outside. It is like the way that you bounce the ball on the wall, ball comes back. With what force that you bounce it, the same force it will come back, bounce back. So that means to say it is action and reaction. So it looks like that the whole functioning at all these centers in our body are happening because of the world outside and the way that world manages, and then you are doing it. You are not doing as if you are the master of it. The world is your master. You are constantly a slave. This is what is Pingala activity. Or many times what happens is, I feel like talking, but I start thinking that, you know what, other people will think about it. So let me hold it. I suppress it. And that suppression in Sanskrit is what is called as idam. Therefore, we have another channel called as ida, where you suppress your energies. You are really hungry, food is there in front of you, you feel like eating, but I don't know, whether what will people think of it. You hold it. See, what holds is again ida. So therefore, we have these two channels activated, ida and pingala, which is basically, you are not the master, world is the master. They are developed. Why are they developed? Because that's how we develop throughout the life. We always say that, respond to the world outside, react to the world outside. Child, somebody says good morning, and we tell the child smiles naturally, but we say to a child, no, when he says good morning, you have to say good morning, you have to reply it. When he says namaste, you have to say namaste. See, that means say we constantly train people to react to the world outside. So therefore, our activity is not really activity, it's only a reactivity that's going on. The whole meditation is to see that how I sit down quiet on all my activities, whether it is either activity or the Pingala activity. That means, please understand that when I close my eyes, sound happens, I feel like opening my eyes. No, I'm not suppressing, because suppression is ida. So I don't suppress it, I don't go out, I calm down myself. Similarly, a sound occurs, let the sound occur, I calm down myself. When at our center that 300-400 people are sitting for meditation at a time, and our instructor will give instruction. He would have given instruction beforehand itself. Switch off all the cell phones. Everybody would have switched off cell phones, or they wouldn't have brought it. And everywhere it is quiet, everybody is sitting quiet. And then when everything is quiet, suddenly somebody's cell phone rings. Maybe some guest who has come and we have forgotten to switch off. Maybe it goes on. You know what happens? Everybody looks at that cell phone. Everybody looks at that, means actually waiting for that cell phone to go. Sound. Normally, when I'm there to give instructions, I say that, if cell phone rings, don't worry, it's not your cell phone. Be peaceful. That means don't even react one way or the other. So this way, when you try to calm down, then what happens is, afterwards, meditation, when you come out into an activity, you are doing the activity, not the response, not the reaction of the world outside is doing the activity. but you are doing the activity. That third channel, which is now awakened, which is your own nature, that's a self, that's a consciousness. That's what is called as Sushumna. So the whole practice of yoga, whole practice of spirituality is to see that how we can develop our consciousness in such a way that we do the activity. That's what is the healthy way of doing it in a true sense. The rest of it is all that you are behaving like a slave. You are the slave to the world outside. You are not yet to become the master. That's why we have this idea of any people who have spiritually grown, they are called as Swami. The idea is that they have their mastery over themselves in such a way, their Ida and Pingala, they are not functioning, but their Sushumna is the one which is activated. So that they are blissful, they are happy, they are spiritual. This is what is the whole spiritual journey that we make. And this journey going in the upper direction is what is broadly called as yoga. Starts from the Annamaya Kosha all the way to the Anandamaya Kosha. And that yoga has been divided into various things at various levels. Like at the asana, at the body level, when we do it, it is the asana. When we do at the prana level, we call it as pranayama. When we do it at the mind level, that's what is same thing, meditation. And then intellect level, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. And finally, we reach the kaivalya. That's what is the way Patanjali takes us in this beautiful journey. And then we are all in this path of the journey. That's the only way that we become free for ourselves. And getting that freedom is what is called as mukti or moksha. You don't react, but you respond. When Jesus Christ was fixed on the cross, he said, why me? That means he was suffering. But then next moment, after a few moments, suddenly he realized and he said, forgive them, O Lord. They don't know what they are doing. That forgiveness came at that time when he was complaining, because he was at the body level. The body, there was pain. And that is at that time they say he was son of Mary. Mary is a physical mother. Whereas, and he said, forgive them, O Lord, they don't know what they are doing. Son of Mary has become Son of God. We all have within us the Son of Mary, where we identify ourselves with the physical body. But we also have Son of God. That's what we are, the consciousness. We are the Atmasthiti, and we are that one with the divinity. And that's what we are. So the whole journey of life is to go from Son of Mary to Son of God. This beautiful journey, let's take up. And in this particular path, I see that how much this your mission is doing the work, human service to the mankind. I'm fortunate to meet several people, and I see that one singular goal that you all work with. With all these things, pranam to all of you. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share these ideas with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Baba.
Thank
so
you.
We have few questions.
Yeah.
So I will read it.
Yeah.
So the first question is, can you please suggest any resource that explains how we can live our lives in accordance to what yoga Ayurveda prescribes?
Yoga and Ayurveda.
No, I mean it was Ayurveda.
It is about Ayurveda. David Frawley has written a very beautiful book and the philosophy of Ayurveda. See, many books they write about the sickness and Ayurveda kind of a thing, disease and Ayurveda. But David Frawley has taken the philosophical aspect of Ayurveda. It's really beautiful. That's very nice that one should take it. Actually, when you look at it, Ayurveda, the very meaning itself is the knowledge of health. But unfortunately, what happened, Western people have called it as the system of Indian medicine. It's not a medicine. It's about the health that he was talking about. And David Frawley has written a very beautiful book on Ayurveda. Of course, Vasant Lad also written a very simple book on the simple ideas, tricks of Ayurveda, all that. So I don't remember the name of the book, both of them, but it is these are the authors.
The first one is David Frawley.
Yeah, David Frawley. F-R-A-W-L-E-Y. F-R-A-W-L-E-Y, David Frawley. He is an American from New Mexico, but is more rishi than a lot of Indian rishis.
So the second question is,
Yeah.
how the knowledge of prana can help in the spiritual growth? How we apply this knowledge in our daily routine so
Right.
as to increase the quality of our lives?
Yes. The quality of life increases better and better if your prana is at a higher centers. If it is a lower center, that means to say at the Muladhara, Swadhisthana, then your whole idea will be towards the opposite sex and towards the food and how you become greedy. These are the centers which are centers for greed. Whereas the moment that you go to the higher centers, that's what is the at the heart center, when you go, you are with more compassion, you are with more love. These are the things. At further higher center, when we go to Ajna level, when the prana, you start working at that level, then you see that your intellect is much better, sharp, and then it will really be helpful to you in the life. Quality of life improves. So therefore, you see that, this you can do it by sitting for meditation, consciously trying to take your prana, imagining your prana to be at higher and higher centers. If you do that, that will slowly materialize that way.
Okay. So the third question is, in the short introductory video of S-VYASA, Dr. Nagendraji was talking about curing cancer through yoga.
Yeah.
Can you please throw some light on that?
It's a very difficult subject actually. There are certain types of cancer, certain stages of cancers where we can slow it down the progress of cancer in such a way that you are there, but the cancer is also there. The simple light that I can throw about is the cancer is a condition where your own cells are fighting with your own cells. There's no external agency like any, the COVID pandemic and all that. There is some external agency that's coming with you, but it is your own body cells are fighting with your own body cells. And yoga means that I try to create a inner blissful harmony. And the more and more that you create inner blissful harmony, less and less that there is a friction within you. There is a fighting that's going on within you. This kind of a solution of creating a peace inside can be a wonderful solution, and joyful, blissful state inside is something which can be antidote for the cancer growth. Cancer cells grow when they feel that there is a lot of fight that's going on inside. When you stop all that, cancer cells have no reason to grow.
If someone has problems in behavioral pattern, say somebody is having anxiety or maybe depression, how does one work at prana level to overcome those things?
Every disease state, every sickness state, particularly mental state like anxiety, fear, all these things are heightened states of prana, increased states of prana. The moment that you slow down, all these things will come down. In fact, very simple analysis that we have seen, we use this slowing down the breath conditions and see that all their anxiety parameters will come down. In fact, there's a big paper in a person who has done along with me. He got his PhD in German University, and that was based on this particular idea of anxiety neurosis and how prana works in that direction, in the bringing down that kind of a thing. In fact, a very simple idea is that when the prana slows down, the mind slows down, anxiety level come down, and you become much more available for your discrimination.
The next question is, can you please suggest some practical tips in daily life about how to react less and respond to situations?
That's a very nice question. And You just a second before you work. In fact, there's one Western saint mystic by name George Gurdjieff, and I don't know how many people have heard his name, but then he's an extraordinarily wonderful saint, and but he doesn't say he's a saint, but then he's a saintly person. He had a very beautiful idea. He said that when I was a child, when my dad was dying, he told me that, look, I don't have any treasure to give you, but only one thing that I have is one advice that I can give you. He said that whenever you feel like reacting angry, get anger after 5 minutes. Don't get immediately. He said, after 5 minutes, I want to become angry. I can't become angry. See, just to delay brings about your awareness. There's another very important idea in this particular problem point. As I was saying, one of the most important problems of an anxiety or mental conditions similar to that is the casualty is your awareness. That's the reason why a problem looks like a mountain, unsurmountable. It may not be a big problem because your lack of awareness is the one which makes it look like a big issue. There may not be any issue at all. And normal course of time, I tell people that your degree of awareness is hardly 3 to 4% or 5%. I see that people driving the car, they'll be talking, they'll be listening to something, they'll be on the phone and all that. And then all these things like changing the gear, turning the wheel, turning the, all these things robotically happens. Not that you are sitting there and doing it. And some animal comes on the way that you apply the brake. Even that applying the brake also, it happens so mechanically. You won't be doing it. That means to say, such a big issue like driving car, there's so many parameters. Your awareness is hardly 4 to 5%. Whereas when you do yoga, when I say pranayama, alternate nostril breathing, when I say, you can't have awareness somewhere else and do this particular thing. Awareness has to be there in the activity that you do. In fact, in the asana also, we suggest inhale while you bend back. Who has to do it? You have to do it. And that you do it, you require your awareness. So it's a very beautiful way. While doing yoga, we maintain about very easily, without any now, it's about 40 to 50%, 60% degree of awareness. If you are practicing about a couple of hours of yoga, meditation, all those things, another couple of hours, then on an average, your awareness grows to about 10 to 15%, even up to 20%. That degree of awareness will take away your anxiety or all the problems of the mental issues. You can easily overcome that.
So the next question is about hearing the Om sound that people hear when they're doing meditation.
Yeah.
The question is, in what way is it connected to the prana? And what about its origin? And what does that signify?
Right. See, a very simple notice that any activity has equal and opposite reaction to it. Like the way that you hit the wall, of course, the wall makes a sound and you hit the wall, but then your hand is pained because it's actually opposite reaction. The same way when you fire a bullet, you have to give a muscle to your bullet so that what happens is that it doesn't kick back because you take it. So that's how that any activity that is there in the front has a reaction to it. Similarly, when I'm talking, you are hearing a sound, that means to say the sound is coming out, but the sound is also going inside with me. That's a simple principle that we use in the bell. In the bell, when we hit the bell, we ring the bell, and that reverberations go inside the bell and makes it multiplied, maximized. So that means to say whatever that sound goes outside also goes inside the bell. The same way, all the sounds that we make is also going inside. But of all these sounds, there are three major primordial sounds that are there, our sages have recognized. And that is the sound Aum. what happens is that these centers where that the sound originates, they have got high significant value of resounding within us, a simple resounding within us. If I say ah, I'm producing ah inside. But if I continuously say ah, I'm not only creating a resound, but inside there is a resonance created. So this resonance has a capacity to percolate into much deeper level, right up to the cell level, and try to disintegrate and collapse the whole thing. That's the reason why they say that the military should not march on the bridge, because when they march on the bridge in the particular this thing, that bridge, there are possibilities that it can collapse also. There's also another thing that if you've seen the people who are participating in the rowing competition, there is one person standing there and maintain the rhythm, and that rhythm makes them to do the activity with a less amount of energy, less consumption of energy, higher output is there. So this sounds with a lesser amount of energy, the highest output of dissolving yourself, taking it to deeper level of relaxation, not only at the body level, because it is a sound which is connected with our prana also. Therefore, it is that which bridges between the body, prana, and the mind. So mind relaxes the moment that you say Aum. We have the whole lot of Mandukya Upanishad which tells how the sound Aum can even transcend the mind also. I don't have time to get into all that detail, but this is how this Aum sound, it is used in the relaxing position, Shavasana, for taking it to deeper relaxation. Also in meditation, we used to see that at the prana level, at the mind level, that it can go to transcendent levels. It can go to that silence, which is called as Turiya, fourth state. So that's why there is no sound on the earth which is, and actually Om is not a sound that we produce. Om is a sound which is the way that the creation started with that sound. So that's why we are trying to match with that sound. Like the way that when we say that I have a candle light, it's not that candle light, but this is also same as a sunlight, a small little form of it. So our Om is not a small little simple Om at our place, but it is a part of that cosmic Om, which is a part of this creation. We're trying to do that.
Sir, it's about 7. I don't know if you have any time constraint.
Now, I think
I
one
still
more
have a
question.
couple of questions.
If you have one question, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I have another meeting waiting. Yeah.
So the question is, fight inside is because we don't treat others as same as us. We are all connected and one.
Yes.
There are no others.
Right.
And when we treat and love others as self,
yeah,
there is no fight and all the diseases will disappear. Is it
absolutely
true?
Right? Absolutely true. All the diseases will iron out the moment that you go take the support of what is called as bhava, that's love, compassion, and also respect, fellow feeling, shraddha. If you bring that, the world will be free from niramayaha. That's why the sage says, sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha. That niramayaha state where we reach, absolutely right. I totally agree with your statement.
Okay. I mean, if you have one question, last question.
Yeah, one last question.
Yeah. So while breathing, I feel my belly is going in instead of going out.
Right.
Is it abnormal?
It is supposed to be abnormal because look at the child. Any child you see, when child breathes, stomach goes out. Stomach comes out because that's what is natural. But as we have grown up, for some reason or the other, we have reversed that particular order. So we need to correct it. Correction is not very difficult. It's very simple. You just lie down and try to put a small little weight on your tummy and then try to inhale and push the weight up. So then your stomach is trained to take the breath into the stomach level. Actually, you know, when we say stomach, there is a lot of people think that breath goes on in the lungs. It's not in the stomach. and it's wrong to go into the, it doesn't go into the stomach. The idea is that there is a wall that is separating the stomach from the lungs that is there behind it, and that is called as the the diaphragm. And then when you inhale, you push the diaphragm so that stomach seem to be coming out, but it's actually not the stomach which is going up to coming out, but it is the, you are trying to use the diaphragmatic muscles for your breathing. What happens is that 60% of your air sacs are in the diaphragm area. If you do not do the diaphragm breathing, that means to say you are not using 60% of your active respiratory area volume. So that's why we need to develop that respiratory activity at the diaphragmatic level, or stomach breathing.
So
Thank you.
thank you very much, sir. We took a little bit of extra time of yours. I know you are very, very busy. So on behalf of everybody here, we had a very good saintly elucidation of prana and its concepts. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take leave of you. My pranams to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So that brings the end of our session today. So please log in again tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m. Tomorrow is June 21st, International Day of Yoga. Tomorrow we will have talk by Dr. Nagaratna Didi, and Dr. Nagaratna Didi is the wife of Raghuramji. She is the health expert in S-VYASA. She combines the allopathy, Ayurveda, naturopathy, all these techniques to treat patients. So please remember to join us again tomorrow. So we will end the session with a prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let the blessings of God and Gurus be upon us all. Om Om Om.